Welcome, good morning. Think about your first job or your current one, the colleagues you trust, the manager you report to, the HR department that's supposed to be your safety net. Now imagine that the very people in those roles, people with authority over your salary, your appraisal, your career, are the same people exploiting you. And that when you quietly try to report it, nothing happens. That is the core of what allegedly happened at the TCS Nashik BPO campus for nearly 4 years between 2022 and 2026. Multiple women came forward and described a pattern of sexual harassment, grooming, and coercion within a well known, globally respected workplace. Today, I want to break down this case not from a political angle. There has been plenty of that already, but from a social psychology and a clinical perspective. Because the dynamics are at play, here are the deep here are deeply documented in research, and understanding them is the only way we actually prevent this from happening again. Welcome you all. Welcome to one and all our viewers to the YouTube channel Skepta. I'm your host, Dr. Mani Iyer. I request you, all of you, to kindly subscribe this channel, like this video, and share this video with all your friends and relatives. And to discuss this matter, we are actually joined by renowned psychologist Ms. Dishari Choudhuri, who is currently working as a professor at Amity University, Kolkata, and she is also she was working at the Tata Medical Center in Kolkata. She's an RCA registered psychologist and a very renowned psychologist at that. So welcome to the program, Ms. Deshari ji.
Thank you
Now,
so much, Maniji.
thank you. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you for coming to this program. Now, let's discuss this case, why this case matters beyond the headlines. Why does this case matters beyond the headlines? India's IT and BPO sector employs millions of young people, many of them women stepping into the workforce for the first time, often relocating to new cities, navigating a new professional world. That context matters enormously. This case isn't just about one office, it's a stress test of every safety system we assume is in place in corporate workplaces. And what this case revealed is that those systems had essentially failed to function for years. The National Commission for Women's Inquiry found what it called pervasive sexual harassment, systemic bullying, and critically zero compliance with the POSH Act, the law that is specifically designed to protect employees from exactly this. That finding is not a footnote, it is the central institutional failure this video is about. Now, let's see about the clinical frame. What is the setting in the clinical frame? A few ground rules for the conversation. The investigation is ongoing. Courts will determine individual guilt. My role today is to name and explain the psychological mechanisms that this case has put on display, how grooming works in a professional setting, why victims don't report immediately, how institutional power silences people, and what coercive control looks like when it happens not in a home but in an office. These are not abstract concepts, they have names, research backing them, and more importantly, they are recognizable. If we understand them, we can spot them. So let's begin. To begin with the introduction of the case study, I welcome Dishari ma'am to take this over. So here I hand it over to Dishari Choudhuri ji.
Okay. Thank you so much, Maniji, for giving me this opportunity to be here and to bring this case forward, which is such an important case to be discussed about to prevent accidents from happening to every one of us working in the work field and to prevent sexual harassment or any other kind of verbal, physical, emotional harassment at workplace. So, understanding and analyzing it would help us to find the red flags. When should we be aware? When what to do? What to if it is okay to report to the authorities or if it is okay to take some other steps? What went wrong in this TCS Nashik case and what could have been done better as an institution? So let's first understand the case, like what happened. So this is a BPO campus in Nashik. TCS operates one of the India's largest IT and BPO ecosystems with over 5.84 lakh employees nationally. That's a huge number. So the Nashik facility is also first, what is a BPO? It is a business process outsourcing campus. It also employs a large number of relatively young workers, many of them junior employees working under team leaders and senior managers. This hierarchical structure, as we will see, is central to understanding how the alleged misconduct was sustained over such a long period of time. Right. So, how did this whole thing come into light? The case came to public attention on March 25th, 2026, when a 23-year-old employee walked into the Deolali Camp police station and filed a written complaint. She alleged that a male colleague had pursued a romantic relationship with her under the promise of marriage and had repeatedly sexually exploited her and harassed her over a long period of time, which was spanning from like around 2022 to 2026. So, 4 years. Once Nashik police registered her complaint and appealed publicly for others to come forward, the response was immediate. Seven more women filed complaints. A male employee also filed a separate complaint. By April 3, 2026, just 9 days later, 9 FIRs had been registered. What had been hidden for years surfaced and all at once. The moment one person broke the silence, it was like a whole chain reaction, and it was like people were ready to raise their voice. So, across the multiple FIRs, one consistent pattern emerged, and understanding that is very key. The complaints described senior employees, team leaders, or managers, or someone in the above strata using their professional authority to initiate and sustain harassment. The method was not random aggression, it was systematic. Initiate a relationship under a false pretense, use professional leverage to maintain access, and exploit the victim's fear of career consequences. Like you will lose your job, or you will not get a hike, or you will not get appraisal, or you will be very much like cornered. So basically, using these consequences to ensure silence. So the NCW inquiry described this as systemic bullying, not isolated misconduct, but an embedded culture. Right? So now our next question comes, like, what was the response of the institution, considering it is such a huge institution in the country? This is where the institutional dimension becomes critical. Multiple women had reported raised complaints internally via email to HR before any written filed police complaint was ever made. It is reported like around 70 emails were sent to the HR to bring this whole situation into light. However, no coercive action was taken from the HR. When the SIT investigated, an assistant general manager in HR was arrested for allegedly ignoring a verbal complaint from one of the victims, effectively blocking the mandatory POSH protocol that should have been triggered. POSH protocol is a protocol which is basically designed to ensure the safety and well-being of employees and to prevent things like this, like emotional, verbal, or physical abuse or harassment happening in workplace. But there was a clear breach of that here. Six female police officers were then subsequently deployed undercover within the facility for 40 days. And during this operation, one of the accused was caught in the act of misbehaving with female employees. So this police officers, that is a very fun thing, like to see such a immediate action from the police side, that they were acting like they were cleaners, or they were the group D staff who were peons or something like that, and bringing food and like that, and so that they were constantly keeping an eye over the whole institution's working. And during this operation, one of the accused was finally caught. Seven employees were arrested, including several leaders and the HR official. The HR manager named in multiple FIRs, Nida Khan, absconded and remained at large for 40 days before she was being located. By May 29, 2026, 8 charge sheets had been filed, amounting to over 2,000 pages of documentation supported by digital records, WhatsApp conversations, CCTV footage, and statements from over 45 witnesses. So we can understand the weight of this situation. Like, so many documented proofs and evidences and witness were already there. And it was like a stack of gunpowder was getting stored over a long time, and that last matchstick was enough to set it all on fire and to lead to an explosion, which is what happened, and it became a nationwide case. Okay, now from a psychological, this is all about the case, like the what happened, what is the actual scenario, what are the evidences available, like that. Now what is the main part of our video is like the psychological profiling. So first we will understand the victims part, then we will understand the perpetrators part, and then we will understand the circumstances part. Okay, so first is the victim profile, like who is the most vulnerable to being exposed to all this in a workplace. So before I describe the victim profile in this case, I want to be very clear. Vulnerability is not a character flaw. It is a predictable outcome of specific circumstances. Right. So the women who were allegedly targeted here were young, relatively junior, and working in a hierarchical environment where their seniors held direct power over their professional lives. So that vulnerability, which is created here by structure, it is not a trait of the individual themselves. So social psychology research consistently shows that people are most susceptible to this coercive influence when three factors overlap. First, if they are new to a setting. Second, if they're economically weak and are dependent on the job for their livelihood or anything like that. And third, if they lack a trusted internal reporting mechanism, or someone trusted who is within the system and with a higher rank, who will actually protect them. And here, all three of these conditions appeared to have been against them. They did not have all of them. Yes, Maniji.
Yeah, I'm basically in consonance with that. I just wanted
Yes.
to add that
Right.
basically the systematic targeting also included basically what one would call they collected the information systematically about each and every person. The HR department collected each and every information which they can
Hmm.
use or utilize or target this vulnerability. They were specifically targeting vulnerable women, and so they
Right.
wanted to, HR, which is supposed to keep all everything as, employees
Under
thing,
control. Hmm.
and within the file and not, it's confidential. It's not supposed to be
Hmm.
released to anybody. Here in the case, the HR was doing the opposite. They were the ones who were actually collecting information on each of the women, whether the woman was in love with somebody, or whether she was
Right.
separated, or whether she was married, separated, or there was a problem, dissonance in their partnership or in the marriage. And this information was collected and this was used in a very
Right.
systematic way, in the sense that, and also the way the targeting was happening, they were made to be part of WhatsApp circles. So basically one
Hmm.
person targets, the other person acts as a, oh, it happens like a good cop bad cop. So one guy
Hmm.
puts a lot of pressure, the other guy comes and says, acts like a good cop and give her support. So
Hmm.
this was, they were
Yes.
alternating like this. and
Hmm.
uh, and she for each woman they have created a WhatsApp group. That means for
Right.
every person one WhatsApp group is created to systematically
Hmm.
targeted from different, by different people, with only
Hmm.
so there is a role play. They were initially also saying there is a role play, in the sense the
Hmm.
person who was targeting her will be the for physical thing abuse, will be in that thing, and the others will aid in the whole process. So
Hmm.
like that is
Hmm.
the same thing they repeat. There in another women case, somebody else will target, and these guys will act as a
Right.
facilitators come, targeters
Hmm.
actually. So this
Yes.
is a very, very systematic targeting. And in these days and circumstances when corporate people don't even, we should not even, they have an issue, even in multinationals and other companies, that you cannot collect the gender information of the person. If he does not want to disclose his gender, that need not be disclosed. That kind of thing we are generally followed in multinational companies and world over. In such a case, it is shocking and it is surprising, shocking and devastating to see that HR themselves has collected this, information which is personal information about each of these employees, which
Hmm.
is very, 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 complete gross violation of all principles and all kind of, anything that you may say about it.
Hmm. 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 True. That is very true. That is totally what happened here. And this grooming pattern which was going on here, it was not like one particular large event, like one particular overtly inappropriate act that would be too visible or too easily reported. Instead, it began with the series of events which we actually call like a grooming pattern, a deliberate process of building trust and emotional closeness before the exploitation began.
Right.
Right. So in this
Right.
case, the pattern described across, I mean, it was described across multiple FIRs, follows a very textbook grooming sequence. A senior colleague initiates what appears to be a personal, caring relationship. Then romantic interest is expressed. A promise of marriage is made, and then there is also some requests for some particular ritualistic behavior towards like the person, like the perpetrator, for their culture, their settings, and their beliefs. And then a deeply loaded commitment in the Indian social context, that is marriage, which carries an enormous emotional and social weight, is promised to the victim. So once the trust and emotional investment all are established, then the exploitation begins. And by that point, the victim is already in a psychologically complex position, right? She has feelings for this person. She also may believe that the relationship is real, and she has no easy way to name what is happening to her. She doesn't know what is a grooming pattern or what is their intent. So she did not at all feel like she can be harassed or there is something wrong in it, because is feeling at peace and at comfort with this whole situation, right?
But she was made to
So
do that. She was forced into
yeah.
such kind of situations, and also they were groomed in such a way that they have to kind of follow they have to leave their current belief systems and their riti rivaj and all those things, and
Hmm.
adopt the riti rivaj and the belief systems and the way of dressing style and all
Living.
those things
Yes.
of the
Yes.
of the person who targeted these women. So these were very much visible, and you know that it was not only visible, basically it was also visible to the parents as well as to the thing that she was not eating during the day, particularly during a particular festival, and fasting for the whole day and all that, and she
Right.
almost not eating, and she was. After in the evening, only after she goes into a room and closes her and
Hmm.
then she comes out and then only she starts eating. And basically,
Hmm.
this was observed in a systematic way and they understood the pattern. The parents understood the pattern and they were not sure what was happening. And then they discussed with her and then it came tumbling out. And that's how they went and reported it to the police, the first place.
Hmm.
So this
Yes.
happened
So,
systematically to most of the women, most of the women.
right, right. Absolutely. And so many people were also asking, I heard that why did she just not say no? Like, why that no means no did not make a point here. So, we have to understand this point very well that several of the accused were team leaders, people who had direct control over their shift assignments, over their appraisals, over their performance, and potentially even their transfers or promotions. So, this is not incidental, it is a mechanism. When the people or the person who are harassing you also controls your professional future, the cost benefit calculation of speaking up against them becomes unbearable. So say something and you will risk losing your job or your appraisal, or you will be transferred to a worse shift. Stay silent and endure it, and at least it would not affect your livelihood and your livelihood is intact. So
Yeah.
this is not passivity. This is a rational response to a structurally impossible situation. So if you have to work there, you have to accept it like that.
No, it's
So research,
yeah. I'm sorry.
yeah, sir, say, yeah.
Complete
No,
the
no, no,
thought.
no, sir, please continue.
So what I was saying was this is more of a blackmail. It happened that they were all
Yeah.
blackmailed into a situation where there was no
Hmm.
way out. So there is no, they
Yeah.
can't even say no. There is no question of saying no. So they cannot say that because then they will be caught. So they are being blackmailed. Blackmail,
Hmm.
and so they can. There is nothing. They cannot come out of such a situation. So they have made it
Right.
so difficult that they cannot come out, and they have to accept the consequences. So that is the kind
True.
of situation they were in. So that is what they put them. The systematic grooming pattern with so many people happened because of that, actually. It's not due to just one person,
True.
but a group of people targeting one particular, woman, as the case may be, for several women. But
Correct.
for each woman, it was a set of people targeting. And so next woman, another set of people targeting, like that.
Right.
Sorry to interrupt.
So this,
You were talking about some research or something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Research on this workplace harassment consistently finds that the single strongest predictor of not reporting is the victim's belief that reporting her will harm her more than it will help her. So, in this case, the beliefs appear to have been entirely justified. Given that prior internal complaints led to no action, people just assume that there is no benefit in complaining again because the HR is also a part of this and HR will, support this and will not take any stand. Rather, me complaining will make my life even more hell. So, it will not help me at all. It will even make it more worse for me. The situations will be worse for me. So that is why they just did not consider saying no or just not putting up with it. Right. Another dimension which is very interesting, we have to understand, is the bystander dimension. So, in social psychology, this bystander effect is a very interesting thing. So, what it is, I will explain. So, it is basically when you are in a group, okay? So, people assume that someone else will do it or no one else is doing it, so I will also not do it. Right? It is a very well researched phenomena where individuals are less likely to intervene in a problem when others are present because each person assumes someone else will act, or because acting feels socially risky when no one else is doing so. If I have to explain it with an example, so many a times what happens is we see a road accident and some person is injured and is falling and is bleeding on the ground, right? Many people will, come and circle around that person and will look and watch, but no one will actually go and help. Why? Because so many people are there, they believe that okay, everyone is watching, someone else will help and someone other person will do. And if no one else is doing, then they feel risky. Okay, if what if I help and police are get, catching me only for the this whole thing? What if I get unnecessarily dragged into this whole situation? I have to stay in the police station for the next 3 hours, 4 hours. I have to come again and again to the court, right? So they feel socially risky to do help that person, and in that process the person actually does not receive the help and that person dies. So similar bystander effect also happened here in this workplace, right? So speaking of,
Sorry.
no problem, bless you, sir.
Thank you.
Speaking up against a senior colleague carries professional consequences. Colleagues who may have observed concerning dynamics stay silent because the social and professional cost of intervening feels higher than the cost of looking away. Over time, that collective silence becomes the environment, and what is silently tolerated is effectively normalized. That is what is happening, right?
Yes.
So now, sir, I would like to explain from the psychological perspectives of the whole situation, like what all could have been done better. So first, we understood what is sexual coercion. It's a simple definition. Sexual coercion is when someone uses pressure, not necessarily physical force, to push another person into sexual activity or contact they haven't freely chosen. So that pressure can be emotional, like you said you loved me, why are you not now engaging? Or it could be relational. If you don't engage, then I will tell everyone. Or professional, like your next appraisal depends on how cooperative you are with me. So it doesn't require a physical threat to be a coercion. Here, the examples I gave did not have any physical threat or pressure. And in a workplace, the professional pressure is often the most powerful lever of all. What makes coercion so clinically significant is that it produces compliance without consent. The person goes along not because they want to, but because the perceived cause of not going along even feels worse. And later, they may struggle to name what happened to them as harassment or assault because they didn't physically fight back, or because there was a relationship, so called. So that is self doubt in itself is a product of coercion. It is not evidence that nothing wrong happened. Right.
Okay.
Now, social psychology also has a concept called legitimate authority. The idea that we are conditioned from childhood to comply with the people who hold power over us. So it can be a teacher, a parent, or a boss. So this conditioning is generally useful, but it becomes dangerous when people in authority exploits that compliance for their own benefit. So there is a very interesting experiment in psychology which every psychology student would know, or psychology who has read would know, is called the Milgram experiment. I will explain what happens here. So ordinary people are administered what they believe to be painful electric shocks to strangers simply because a figure in a lab coat told them to. Okay. So the experiment showed how far people will go to comply with authority even when it goes against their own moral instincts. So simply because a person with a lab coat came and told someone, Jay, go give them this electric shock. Just because a person was in lab coat, they actually did that. They actually gave that electric shock to the victim, even when they thought it was morally incorrect. But they did that because we are so hardwired to follow authority. Though this experiment showed how far people will comply with authority. Now apply that principle to a workplace. When a leader tells a junior employee to do something that makes her uncomfortable, and that team leader has the power to fire her, transfer her, or give her a bad review, the pressure to comply is not just psychological, it is structural. The Milgram dynamic, is playing out here in the office as well. The person is in authority and asking you to do something, so you have to do it even if you don't want to do it. Right.
Yeah.
And why don't the victims report is simply a wrong question here, I think. Because every time a case like this comes out, someone will ask, why didn't she report earlier? And I want to address this plainly. The more useful question is, what made reporting feel impossible for so long? In this case, several women had reported internally via mail to HR, and nothing has happened. The system that was supposed to protect them absorbed their complaints and produced no response. So, what that does psychologically is devastating. It confirms the victim's worst fear, which is that speaking up will not help. And it teaches every other employees who might be watching the reporting is pointless or worse, dangerous. When the first women finally went to the police, bypassing the internal system entirely, seven others came forward within 7 days. They weren't waiting because they were passive. They were waiting because they had no reason to believe that system would work at all. The moment one person showed them an alternative route might also exist, they immediately took it because they were ready and they were full of emotion, full of rage. Right. And this promise to a marriage is the best coercion tool, like one of the better coercion tools, because this promise of marriage appears across multiple complaints in this case and it deserves specific psychological attention. So I am discussing about that. In Indian society, marriage is not simply a personal choice, it carries enormous social meaning, family expectations, and for many young women represents security and social legitimacy. Psychologists call the deliberate use of something a person deeply values to manipulate their behavior instrumental exploitation of attachment needs. So, put simply, if you know someone, if you know that someone desperately wants to be loved and accepted, and you convincingly offered them that, you gain enormous power over that person. So the promise of marriage in this context was not a genuine expression of intent ki I am so much in love that I want to marry you. No, but it was using her weakness in the perpetrator's favor. So based on the pattern described across these multiple FIRs, it was allegedly a consistent strategy used to establish emotional dependency and then leverage that dependency to sustain the exploitation. The fact that the same pattern appears across multiple complaints from different victims makes this look like less of a misunderstanding and far more like a deliberate method. Right.
Okay.
And when this system, which actually should be protecting the victim, protects the perpetrator, that is the most devastating part. The NCW found zero POSH compliance. An HR manager is alleged to have ignored a direct complaint. The company's internal grievance mechanism appears to have produced no protective action for women who used it. So, from a social psychology standpoint, institutions develop what researchers called organizational cultures, shared, often unspoken norms about how things work and what is acceptable. When a culture develops in which harassment complaints are quietly ignored, that culture sends a message to everyone in the building is this is how just things are here. The message doesn't need to be spoken, it is communicated through what the institution does and does not do in response to misconduct. And once that norm is established, it is self reinforcing because people adjust their behavior to what they believe the institution will and will not tolerate.
Okay.
Right. So this was about the whole psychological breakdown about this case as to why it happened and why they couldn't say no and what could have led to all of this coercion and sexual harassment and this pressure to change the belief system and everything.
So, having talked about that, can we also a little bit talk about what are the, I mean, what could possibly be takeaways or prevention and takeaways, or that
Yes.
in future such things don't happen. So for that, what do you think? What kind of what may be the solution?
Sure. That's a very good question. That is the thing that we should actually focus on so that we can prevent it from happening in future. So first, I would want to give the takeaway for the employees, especially those who are new to the workforce. So if you are starting, I'm telling you to the audience, if you are starting your career or if you are early in a job, this is worth knowing that you have legal rights and that exist before anything and everything that goes wrong, not just after. The POSH Act mandates that every workplace with more than 10 employees must have an internal complaints committee. You are entitled to know who is on it, how to contact them, and what the processes look like. Ask for the information on your first week, not because you expect to need it, but because knowing it exists and knowing how to use it changes your relationship with to your own safety and that to others as well. So know the difference between mentoring and grooming. A senior colleague who goes out of their way to build a personal, emotionally close relationship with a junior employee, especially one that involves romantic or marriage related language, is not necessarily looking out for your career. Trust your instincts if something feels off. You do not owe anyone a personal relationship in exchange for professional guidance. Also, it is also very wrong that they hold so much power over you that they can simply do whatever and have no consequences. It might have happened here in this TCS for the long time, but ultimately see how the system crashes, how the system falls apart. So you don't need to push yourself to that extent before filing a complaint or before leaving the organization or before doing that. Even if leaving is not an option, I understand for many people it is not an option to leave the organization. But then it is always an option to apply to other organizations and try to move out and look for better jobs if you can't fight. And if you can fight, then that is the bravest thing that you can do, because that is you standing up for yourself. If you don't stand up for yourself, who else will? So that is first for the employees. And next for the managers and team leaders is to understand the weight of your role. If you are in any supervisory role and watching this video, you should you can take a few key takeaways from this whole case. The people who allegedly perpetrated this harassment were team leaders and senior staff. So people in exactly the role you may hold. Your professional authority is significant and it creates a genuine power imbalance with the people you manage, whether or not you consciously think of it that way. So never use your professional role, your like appraisals, shift assignments, performance reviews as a leverage in any personal or relationship context with a junior employee. So being a leader means you are teaching people to how to be a leader also. So set an example, be professional, and just assign work and everything based on their work, based on how they are performing, and not based on your personal relationships. So if a junior team member confides something personal or distressing, your first response should be to connect them to HR or internal complaints committee, not to become their confidant and inadvertently discourage a formal complaint. No. And also to pay attention to your team's social dynamics. If someone seems increasingly withdrawn or fearful around specific colleague or reluctant to engage in certain meetings, that is your information to you. And you have, like, with great power comes great responsibility. So you have a lot of power. So it is also your responsibility to see that your team is working effectively, because that is more of a reflection on you than about the team, because you are supposed to be managing the team. And for HR professionals, of course, the accountability starts with you. The most damaging single element of this case from an institutional standpoint is the alleged suppression of internal complaints by the HR itself. The HR manager named in this case is alleged to have been not only unresponsive but actively complicit in the crime. So that is an extreme case. But the failure to take internal sexual harassment complaints seriously is far from rare. Every complaint that enters an HR inbox deserves a documented, well time bound response. Every complaint that is closed without action should be reviewed by independent body. Post compliance is not paperwork, it is the difference between an employee who is protected and one who is trapped. Even drawing to my personal experience, I would say, even in one of the workplaces that I worked, I filed a complaint against something that was not necessarily right to the HR, and they simply did not respond. They did not even respond to the mail. They did not even contact me. I even went and reported it to my senior manager, and the senior manager was a complicit to the whole thing. So understanding that, I know I had the luxury. I'm grateful that I had a luxury to of leaving the job, because I put in my spot resignation and did not go from the next day onwards, and then a whole saga followed, and there was a whole proceeding after I left. But it took me leaving to have any action being taken in that workplace. But I'm glad that happened, and it was good for the other employees that were working here. But not everyone can live like me. I know everyone doesn't have that kind of financial backing or anything, like they can leave the job anytime they want to. So even if you don't leave the job, I would say it is your responsibility to take a stand for yourself. Because if you don't, and you don't have your strong boundaries of this is okay and this is not okay, someone will come and trample over all over it, and you will be left in a exploited manner, which you do not deserve at all. No one deserves that. So, yeah, I think with that, I would like to end my part, sir. Do you have any inputs that you would like to give, like the takeaways from this case?
Um, I think you more or less covered most of the things that are being implemented or that can be implemented, and that was possibly in the POSH Act is also trying to implement that. See, where the POSH Act is very good on paper, but it has to be followed. That is the criteria. That means it has to be implemented properly, and it has to work for the person people whom for which it is beneficial, for the beneficiaries for whom it is intended. So that is the most important thing as far as the management is concerned. That so how I am not sure in this particular case how it happened that there were, I think some people say that even there were more than 100 complaints, and the HR completely ignored them. In fact, the HR was the ringleader. The HR person was the ringleader of the whole thing. So,
Right.
so in that case, there has to be some oversight and all that, which the
Hmm.
management did not have. I mean, there has to be some
Right.
oversight, right? Everything is not run
Right.
by one person under whatever way that person might think or like. And this is supposed to be a corporate organization with a proper structure and all that. And so, if one particular piece of the cog does not work, does not mean that the entire system should stop to a grinding halt. But that is what seemed to have happened in this case. That just because
Hmm.
one particular manager, chose to not actually, she chose to not to act on those complaints deliberately, and so that was uh, I'm not sure how. I mean, there was no oversight on this. There was no committee there. I mean, the committee was there. If were formed or not, we are not clear. What happened internally, that is also we are not clear. So the company
Right.
also has not come and explained, but it's ongoing investigation. So we also do not want to speculate or comment anything. All that, we just want to leave it at that. That basically this such things should not happen in the future, and that women also should know that they have their rights, and they can go and report to anybody they want, to the police or to the NCW or to any women helplines that we also we will be giving in the description, all the numbers that we are giving, where they can reach out to. at any point of time for help. They can reach out to anybody, a lawyer or a psychologist or a therapist or any, any informal or formal kind of friendships or, any other people they can reach out to. Not to the outside world, not keep it just within themselves. But reach out to, I mean, they
Right.
can connect to the police, or they can connect if it's a serious case, or they can connect with other organization for women like
Yes, even
NCW.
yes, sorry to interrupt, but that is a very good point that you said that
Mm,
even if they cannot reach out to like higher authority, like even if they feel like HR is not responding or they cannot have the enough courage or they think if will it be right to immediately go to the police or anything like that, they can at least gain some clarity by talking to professionals like psychologists or therapists. They would actually help them analyze the whole situation, make the pros and cons analysis, and together like figure out what it would be the best course of action, so they do
mm,
not have to feel that they are all alone and they have to manage everything by themselves. And
mm.
also it takes so much courage to be the first one, like, right?
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
this person was the first one and she went to the police, and immediately in 7 days 7 other people also went. So she basically started a chain reaction, which we also call a ripple effect, like
Right.
how we drop a stone on the pond and it makes the ripples and it spreads all over a large area. So actually you have that much power to create a ripple effect in this world and make a change only by having the courage to be the first. Think what if Gandhiji was not did not have the courage enough. Think Netaji, if he did not have the courage enough. That one person, that one people only made huge impacts and
Right.
made an entire Indian National Army and everything because that one person was brave enough. So I request the viewers to be that one person, to have that courage for yourself, for your coming generation, and your juniors, your colleagues, and for everyone else.
Yeah. So just adding to that also, I mean, in terms of what we're saying is we are producing these videos so that the awareness is, everybody knows there is a big awareness in the corporate circles as well as in other circles that, you have your rights. Everybody has their rights. And if the rights are trampled upon, then they can seek, recourse either legally or through, even through informally through psychologists or something, as you were saying, or legally through they can talk to a lawyer. Uh, the first stage of thing is that they can talk to a lawyer, or they can talk to the women's organization. They can talk to the women's helpline. So these kinds of things are available, and our main purpose of producing this video is that this awareness is created, and we are also putting all the helplines and thing in our
Hmm.
description, so that so that you are not caught in such situations, and you know that you have recourse and you have other options in any case that might be any kind of a case. Even if you are trapped kind
Correct.
of a situation, you can always come out. There is a only that, as you rightly said, you have to take the initiative, because if you don't take the
Hmm.
initiative even till the last moment, then things are going to be bad. So we have to avoid that at all costs. So you take initiative, and take the initiative as soon as possible, as early as possible, so that way it can be prevented. And also you should understand the red flags, because we have been time and again talking. Dishari ji has been our guest, speaker on multiple occasions, and she has time and again talked about red flags, what red flags to understand, how to identify those red flags. And when you immediately see some red flag, you have to immediately reach out. Or, that is the message that we have been giving consistently in all the videos that we have produced, including this video. So I thank you very much, Dishari ji. So for
Thank you, sir.
coming once again to coming to and talking about this topic, which is a little bit of a difficult topic, and it's also a very sensitive and delicate topic. Given the sensitivities involved in around the case,
Right.
particularly. Uh, so given that kind of a scenario, we have to consider that women's rights is number one, and we are fighting for that because your individual rights is
Right.
more important than most important, and the Constitution provides for that. And so one has to fight for that if that is being challenged. So these
Right.
awareness videos are being produced precisely for that reason, and I appreciate Dishari to have come and shared her valuable time and talked to you about this. She has taken time off from her very very busy schedule, and and come to this program and talked about this. I thank you very much, Dishari. Really appreciate your
Thank you
efforts
so much, sir.
and and your thing effort and everything else that you put into this program. So with that, I think we would like to close this program, and we will see you, Dishariji, in some other program very soon. So with that,
Sure.
I take leave of you. So have a very good day, have a very good afternoon and very good evening, and have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Take care,
Thank
sir.
you, ma'am.
Bye.
Take care. Take care, ma'am. Thank you. Bye.